Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? All right, everybody out on the internet, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
All right,
And
good.
we can hear you.
Toda. All right, today's lesson is not about you. It's just a continuation of what we spoke about last week and love and relationships. All right. So, got to start with the rules. Raise your hand, ask a question. Please wait to be called on before you answer, as there are hands raised in the room as well as online. Please keep your question or comment on track with today's lesson. You will have 60 seconds to answer the question or make your statement. If you go past 60 seconds, Caleb will mute you. It's not personal. It's just to give the Moreh enough time to finish the lesson. The lessons are recorded and must be kept within a certain amount of time. The lesson is mixed with discussion to help build one another up. Please, any one person, do not abuse that time. All right. So last week we spoke about love being unconditional, but the relationships or the benefit of that love are absolutely, totally conditional, right? But let's take a look at that term unconditional more as unearned instead, right? It's basically a love that he gave to us before we could do anything to earn it, right? So the love still exists, but the relationship we have to work at. Him loving us doesn't mean that there aren't things that we need to do so that we can have a relationship with him, all right? Oh, didn't mean to do that. Mouse man, hit that. Hold on. All right, so I want to take the time to explain that the lesson and every lesson thereafter are not based on any one individual, whether in this assembly, locally, or abroad. The lessons are not developed by myself alone, nor any of the Morim. And yes, the Father has something to do with it, if not all of it. If these lessons hit certain points that you feel or believe have something to do with you, then all praise to Yahuah. Take that knowledge and apply the solutions to your life. Please don't take anything personal to the point that you miss the message that's being given to help you solidify your salvation. All right. So take it personal, but don't take it personal. All right. So again, relationships need to be nourished constantly in order to survive. Continuing to recap. And what was the main thing we talked about that leads to the downfall of relationship? Nobody took their notes. Terrible. Good, Aki. There's a gray button at the bottom. Turn the mic on.
Hear me? All right.
Yep.
Cool. So we talked about was just basically someone's fed up and they don't want to put up with the relationship anymore.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to go forward because they feel like their needs are not being met.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
In the relationship.
Yep. And we summed that up in one simple phrase. Now, Monica, you tell me what that phrase was?
I believe I do. Just taking each other for granted.
Yep. He said the long version, you said the short version. Taking each other for granted. All right. Basically assuming that we don't need to nourish them because they're always going to be there, right? If you do that, it's not good. Sometimes it's done intentionally without even realizing that we're doing it. Other times it is done consciously, but in the end, it really doesn't matter which situation is true. The result will eventually be the same, all right? All right, so we're gonna look at a few places in the word that can help us fix our mindset so that we're not in the habit of taking relationships for granted. So the key to this is understanding that relationship that you're in, whether it be husband to wife, friend to friend, parent to child, child to parent, the relationship is not all about you. You got to keep that in mind as you're going through the relationship. So let's take a look at John 15:12 to 13. This is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you. Greater love none has than this, that someone laid down his life for his friends. So it says, I have loved you. Exactly how did he love us? Any thoughts? Namana, go ahead.
He loved us unconditionally.
Okay. And we're going to go to a verse to show us how he demonstrated that unconditional love for us. Oh, we got a hand in the room. Go ahead, Aki.
I was going to say, in that while we were yet sinners, he died for us.
Mm-hmm. All right. He's referring back to John 10, right? And I am the good shepherd. I know my own and my own know me. Just as the Father knows me and I know the Father, and I lay down my life for the sheep. For this reason, the Father loves me, because I lay down my life that I might take it up again. And before we get any further than this, is he considering himself in the situation, or is he considering others? Others, right? That's almost a rhetorical question, right? So let's look at that phrase, to lay down. It's from a Greek phrase. It means to give up or to set aside. It's to give up or conceived as something that's laying aside that you have a right to, or you have possession of, something that belongs to you, right? That you're going to give it up or set it to the side. It's not going to be of importance to you. You're giving it up on behalf of someone else. But let's look at life, right? He's setting aside his own life. The condition of living, or the state of being alive, that's the obvious part, right? But especially in regards to healthiness, happiness, exuberance, energy, vitality, and the like, things of that nature. So this is giving me life, right? It's basically, in this instance, he's giving up what makes him happy, what brings us energy. It's what fills our cup, what replenishes us, or motivates us to live, right? It's not just simply the breathing in and out. What actually gives us life? That's what he's laying down. So again, we want to be like the Mashiach, but we're not giving up our life to the point of death for each other daily, right? That part we are not going to imitate him in. We only got one earthly life to live, so we can't do this day after day. But we are to lay down our lives for each other on a regular basis. So we're supposed to give up our life, what gives us nourishment, what gives us energy on a daily basis. So if I ask you to describe your life, what would you say? Anybody in the room, online? What is your life? I mean, you live it every day. Some of us got decades worth of experience in it. All right, we got a brave soul in the back with a microphone. What would you say is your life?
Well, I'll say my life is a moderate life. I'm trying to be what Yahuah wants me to be, and I'm trying to learn more about how to live with other peoples around me. And I'll say I'm a peaceful person and a loving person.
Okay. Namana, what you got?
Shalom, Mikey. I would say that my life would be an example of Hamashiach Yahusha, for we are to be ambassadors.
Okay. I'm going to challenge y'all to dig a little deeper. Oh, see, y'all bunch of punks. Now y'all want to put your hand up after everybody else done said something. I see how y'all do.
Somebody got it.
Oh, we got two in the room. I'm gonna let them go first. Go ahead, Akis.
Well,
Y'all know I'm just messing with y'all. Go ahead.
So I like what I heard so far. Remember that Yahushua said he's the way, the truth, and the life.
Mhm.
What verse came to me was Deuteronomy 32:47, where it says, "For it is not a worthless word for you, because it is your life. And by this word you prolong your days on the soil which you pass over the Yarden or Jordan to possess."
Okay. Keep that verse on deck. I believe Nabat was ahead of you, Aki.
I was just gonna say, I liken my life to like a path or a journey, ups and downs, good and bad, trials and tribulations, but just trying to walk with Yahuah. That's it.
Moreh, what you got?
Could you go back to the slide that it was on?
Which one?
The one that was after this one. So if I ask you to describe your life in basis of what we're, in the context of what we're saying, my life is the time that I have.
Okay.
Right. Whatever time that I have, whatever energy that I have, you had it on another slide, those things I can say what makes me happy, what makes me, fulfilled, and that's serving others or being around others. And that's all a part of that laying down of the life portion of it. So that's what I would describe my life as. Anybody that's in this particular role in servitude, that's what you're doing. You're sacrificing your time and your energy for others. A lot of times you have to stop what you're doing to tend to others. Same thing with parents.
Mhm.
Your life is your children.
Mhm.
You know, you're trying to see about them, what they're doing, what's going on with them, constantly worried about them
Mhm.
Until they get to a point where they can take care of themselves, and then you become their concern.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Let's stay on that track. Before I keep your answer, let's stay on that track. Because again, like I mentioned at the end of last week, I'm not the definition guy. I'm not here to make new rules or anything like that. But I am here to get us to apply and see ourselves in a lesson, right? I still got those mirrors over there if y'all need them. So we gave a bunch of generic answers, all told, right? They're all told things that we should be doing, right? But what gives me vitality, exuberance, probably ain't the same thing that gives somebody else the same thing. So that's my question. Not just what gives you life. Where do you find your exuberance? What gives your meaning to life? What fills your cup? That's the question I'm asking. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say that my life is not about me. It's about whatever Yahuah's will and purpose is for me.
Which is,
Hmm?
do you know yet?
You know, I'm searching for that every day.
That's an honest answer. Hello, yeah.
Mhm.
We got to, what you got, Aki?
So you say, just to be clear, you're saying in our life, what gives us happiness, exuberance, energy, vitality, all that stuff.
Yeah,
Right?
the words that I put back on the screen 4 times
So
and underlined.
no, I just
Please,
wanna,
can we focus
I
on
just,
those words?
I am focused. I want to
Not
make
you,
sure.
I'm just
I
talking
wanna
in
make
general.
sure.
You're doing a good
So,
job.
Well, so with that being said,
Mhm.
what brings me joy and focus and energy is pleasing Yahuah and family, you know, my children,
Mhm.
you know, family, my household, and more so bringing them up in the covenant. So to see generations of my offspring keeping Torah and walking in Yahuwah's ways.
What you got?
This is your life, right?
Mhm.
My life.
Speaking about you, what fills your cup?
What fills my cup is that after, like I said, you call me, I'm an elder, and the experience that I have, I try to improve on the things that I have been taught in this walk, like doing being obedient. And my joy is to sit down and read the scriptures, because I get a lot out of just reading the scriptures that pertains to the way that he wants me to walk.
Did I see another hand? Namana, what you got?
Shalom. I just wanted to also add to what I had before, to be of service, to be of use to Abba Yahuwah, you know, to serve him, to study his word, and to do the best that I can, to serve my mishpachah, and to do the best I can to represent and walk like Hamashiach Yahusha. That is what gives me happiness and joy, and to tell others about him whenever I get the chance, and to give thanks for everything that Abba Yahuwah has bestowed on me in my life and those that I talk to. That's what gives me happiness and joy, and with the hope that one day, I hope and pray I can hear the words, "Well done, good and faithful servant."
When you're giving your thanks, what method do you like to use to give him thanks?
Slika, are you talking to me?
Ken?
Oh, Ken. I pray. I go in my room and I close the door and I pray, or I just shout it out loud. Total Abba Yahuwah, Hallelujah, Baruch Hashem Yahuwah, and everything.
So he gave you that beautiful voice so you could pray?
He gave me this beautiful voice to shout out, to tell everybody, and to pray. I'm a servant. So
I'm gonna tell y'all right now, at the beginning of these services, y'all don't want to hear me shouting out. We got a whole group of people that come up to the front of the room who find exuberance in what she called shouting out. It's okay to say that you like to sing, sis. It's okay.
Oh, hallelujah. And you know what? I'm not well right now because of my chest contusion. but Abba Yahuah is healing me,
Mhm.
and I am going to do what he gave me this gift to do. But in the meantime, in between time, I shout out, I praise for everything, good, bad. I still praise him. Hallelujah. And I yield.
Hello, yeah. So the Rabah. Hold on, we had two up front that had something to share, and they keep giving their place to somebody else. Go ahead.
So for me, something that gives me happiness is I don't know how to word this, but producing, right? So like when we do the podcast, you know, hearing how it's helped people and how people have been blessed by it. On the other hand, you know, with my personal business side of things, you know, actually building something and then seeing at the end after years of doing it that it's finished. You know, even with my job, knowing that, you know, there's a certain amount of work I have to do in order to get a sale and get commission. That's something that I enjoy doing. So just, you know, doing things and seeing the results of it is something that gives me joy.
Okay.
Other than that, it's, you know, bees and things and flowers.
Come on, man. Simple things in life.
Go ahead, Aki. It's that 30-year-old joke, man. It didn't hit. Them 29-year-old jokes are real good, though.
Some of the things that give me healthiness, happiness, exuberance, energy, vitality, and the like. Laughter. Laughter. Encouraging, trying to help encourage people. Talking to people about the things that Yahuah has taught me and them actually receiving it with joy. That does make me feel good because it shows that Yahuah's word is living. It continues to strengthen my belief. So I do get excited about that. And just having generalized conversations about his word and just, you know, anything I guess like knowledgeable about.
Okay. Let me ask you this. Coach, are you familiar with the phrase ball is life?
No, I didn't. I did not.
This phrase for athletes or former athletes such as yourself.
Ball is life.
Ball is life. That's where they found exuberance. When they had a ball in their hand or on the field or on the court, that's all they wanted to do. They come alive. They felt the energy that they couldn't get doing anything else. Boy, a blessing from the Most High that you didn't get stuck in that place, that you're able to find exuberance in other means.
Yeah.
But there was a point where that was your life.
Yeah, ball was life.
Going to the gym was life, right?
Not going to the gym, but just
well, unless you want to be a little scrawny football man like me, you probably had to do a little bit, you know.
Not going to the gym. Just
it was nice, right? Practicing wasn't so
like
fun.
Practice and playing. Like going to the gym was just like one of those things that you just had to do. Like otherwise, everything else is just gonna be not fun.
But practice and ball at one point was where you found your exuberance, right?
Yeah, I did enjoy practice.
It's not the same as it used to be, right?
Nah.
You mentioned the exuberance you find in speaking to others and sharing the word.
Yeah.
Were you always that outgoing about talking to people like that?
Nah, I used to actually be very shy.
I thought so. I don't know. He just showed that to me.
Yeah.
So where you find your exuberance, what's life at one point is going to change and adapt. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? Yakaria, go ahead.
Shalom. When I think about this part of your question, I think about like what I enjoy and what makes me happy. But a lot of times it is service, not just to Yahuah, but to other people, whether it's through me creating curriculums for the children, praise and worship, loving to sing, loving to praise dance, serving my husband. I know when I wake up, I've always had a list, even when I was younger. Okay, here's a task I need to get done for the day. And I find joy when I'm able to accomplish those things. And even if I'm able to check off one thing, regardless of how the day goes, that makes me happy. Okay, I can look back and reflect and say, I accomplished something. I find happiness in, sometimes watching movies or doing art, fellowshipping with brothers and sisters, calling, checking on everyone, sending positive messages. So just different things like that throughout the day in addition.
Toda for sharing. Okay, so the question is, we talked about laying down our life, right? So the question asked was, if you had to describe your life, and we describe life as what makes us happy, what brings us exuberance, what would that be for you?
That's a pretty deep question. Yes. Describe your life. Describe my life. I would say I'm a constant student.
Okay, learning.
Yeah. I didn't realize how much until someone actually would say something to me like, and I'm like, oh, that's pretty interesting. The next thing I know, I'm reading it and they would walk in my office and I'm reading, and she asked me, she said, how often do you do this? You just read things. I'm like, you say something, I never heard it before, or I've heard it and I just want to learn a little bit more about it. I just start reading. And I think that's something that brings me joy even when I'm at home. You know, if I believe the Father's revealed something or I'm thinking about something, just to study it out and try to connect dots and make it make sense.
Yeah, Michelle.
So in Hebrew, we know we also know the word nefesh, which means soul, also means life or appetite, right? So this Hebrew word nefesh. So it's kind of like what are you feeding on? What is your soul feeding on? What's what are you nourished by, right? So you could look at this a couple of different ways, because Messiah said he's the bread of life. Messiah said, my bread is to do the will of him who sent me to accomplish his work. So that's what that is purpose. It's the Father's purpose. Now, if you look at it the other side, you could be feeding on the Father's purpose, or you could be feeding your own pleasures. You could be feeding on bread of wickedness, bread of idleness, or this bad leavened bread, if you will, too. So it's what are you feeding on? What fulfills you? What drives you, gives you purpose, and I yield.
Yeah. What you got up?
So since we talked about how it can change and stuff over time, one thing that has become something that really fulfills me deeper on a deep level is finding or hearing or reading about archaeological finds that proves the scriptures. You know what I'm saying? Proves some things about the scriptures, the name, things like that. I love reading and hearing about that.
Okay. Naman, what you got?
Shalom, my key. I would say my life is, I'm learning, I'm growing, I'm producing. As the Father opens my eyes, as I read and study his word, he's helping me see things I never even saw before. As I'm reading and studying, I'm learning so much about Hamashiach Yahushua and him and who he is. And so I see the world and everything in it differently. There's so many things I see differently. And with that, I just grow and grow, and I just build off that. So that's my life. That's what I see. And I see things, differently in this walk and in my life. And as I see things, and I count that as a blessing, because I'm growing in his word, and he's just showing me so much. And I'm grateful.
Put up a share. All right. So we all were so eloquent on what our life is. How you lay that down for somebody else? Go ahead now, Mana.
Our bodies are sacrifices. We lay our bodies down as sacrifices,
But again, if we look at the concept of what we're asking, it's setting aside what brings you life on behalf of somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
Karia, what you got?
I was going to say service and sharing testimony.
What did you have to set away from yourself, though, in order to do that?
Well, you have to release sometimes it's hard to share, and sometimes it's hard to be honest about like who you were or your past. So you have to humble yourself in order to be honest about who you are, to share that with other people, especially once people might be going through something or just in general.
Okay, so you had to give up some of your pride.
Yes.
Be willing to truly share yourself. Okay, we had 3 hands up. They all went down. What's going on? Oh, you got one. Hold on. Go ahead. Good answer.
Some of the ways, I mean, they kind of said it too, but some of the ways that we can lay our life down does not necessarily mean death. It could mean being silent, humbling yourself when someone is, in order to show someone something, instead of like, let's say you see someone who is out of line, instead of yelling at them or saying certain things, and let's say they're directing it towards you, your actions could be that thing that causes them to turn around as you help them. So that's a way of humbling yourself and laying yourself aside and laying your life down and how you would prefer to respond, by responding the correct way to bring them into the light.
Hello, yeah. What you got?
Mine kind of runs along with her, Shemaya's. I was just gonna say basically being slow to anger or certain emotions that could pretty much cause a reaction or a chain of reaction of events that doesn't necessarily have to exist.
Correct. Good answer. Thought I heard somebody turn the microphone on. Go ahead.
I was going to say how you can lay your life down, how we lay our life down is when we get a call at night that's very inconvenient at that time, or the very need that comes when it's inconvenient to what you may be doing, and you lay that aside and go tend to the need.
Yep. Go ahead, Ricky.
I guess just some examples and just to land back of what everybody said. So like you said, humbling yourself. So at times where, I enjoy talking and having conversations, going back and forth. It might be a time where, he just needs me to shut up and just listen to somebody. At times where I would like to be happy and joyful and laughing. Well, I need you to empathize with this person, and because they're feeling sad. So I need you to, level with them. So just certain things that does bring us joy and happiness, but that might not be for somebody else. So putting ourselves in other people's shoes and just meeting them where they're at and trying to help them out, when they're going through something, just being a helping hand in that aspect.
Okay. I think he was previewing some of my slides, but it's okay. One more in the back. Go ahead.
Laying your life down could be walking in your call. Your call may be something totally different than what you imagine for your own life or plan for your own life. And now the Father is saying, this is what you have to do. And you have to lay aside everything that you're going to do and do what he says to do for others.
Absolutely. I would say everybody that gets up on a regular basis has had to go through that. I don't think any of us woke up one day and was like, this is what I want to do. It's like, yes, Father, I will do what you tell me to do. Don't strike me again. Yes. You said, Damana, what you got?
Yeah, Ken, it's like when you're hungry and you see, I see somebody else, I'm going to give them my food before I eat. Just give it to them so they can eat. Or like my next door neighbor was crying and everything, but I was busy in the middle of stuff. I put my stuff aside and went over to see what was going on with her, which is my, my pleasure, is making other people more important than myself.
Let me stay right there real quick. This has nothing to do with any slide I got coming up next.
Okay.
You say you find pleasure in helping others, right?
Ken.
If you're no good to yourself, can you help somebody else?
You have to start with yourself.
So there may even become a time where you have to tell somebody, no, I can't help you right now because I got to take care of me.
But I'm willing to sacrifice myself to help others. I'm willing
to. Eventually, there'll be no more you, and people that will need you or would have needed you will not have access to you. So there's a time where I would find so much joy in being out right now doing X, Y, Z. but
No,
I'm not healthy enough yet.
I'm not healthy
I got
enough
to sit
yet.
down until I can heal up, and then I can go out.
Mhm.
So sometimes some of us, again, this is not you in particular, just saying in
Oh,
general,
no.
that you may have to give up what you want to do, what gives you exuberance, and think about the long-term game versus what you're looking at in that moment.
Well, because you got to keep your temple strong enough in order for you to help other people. I'm just saying this in general. I mean, you're no good to yourself. I mean, if you can't go to serve others, if you want to serve others, you got to take care of yourself first, spiritually, physically, mentally, etc. And that's with the word.
Yeah. Again, this isn't about you, but there's somebody out there that's in that moment struggling with that because they want to be out there so much doing stuff, and it's bothering them that they can't.
Well,
but sometimes you got to put yourself to the side, lay what you want to do down, and it's not about you. It's not about what you want to do right now. It's about what you have to do so that you can do what you want to do later. Go ahead, Micah.
On there.
It's on.
So you were saying you can't always help people because there'll come a time where you sacrifice yourself so much that you can't help someone else in the future. But in that situation, are you saying you should turn someone down in the present, someone you know is having a problem, just off the potential that someone else could be having a worse problem in the future and that may never come?
Not in the moment. If someone's standing in your, turn it off, we're going to get feedback. If you're in the moment and you have the ability in that moment to help them out, then help them out. But then you may have to go and retreat and recover and take some time for yourself. There's times up here when you may say, I'm going to go spread the word to 5 people a day. And the first person you interact with, you poured so much out of them. It was such a fight in the spirit realm that you've got nothing left. The next 4 people you talk to, they're going to walk all over you. The adversary is going to win every last one of those conversations because you didn't go replenish yourself. So if there's someone in the moment, you can help them in the moment. But what you had planned to do that day, your plans may have to change. You have to put yourself to the side. Say, what I was going to do, I can't do today. I can only get this much done. Now, there's some of us who, like, I'm a fixer. They're doers that if I can fix the situation, it's going to hurt me. I'm going to feel a certain kind of way about it. If I can't produce what I was going to produce that day, he's going to feel a certain way about that. But you got to be able to put that to the side and think about the overall usefulness to the cause in the kingdom. I don't remember who was first in the room. All right, go ahead, Emma. And then I got 2 in the room, then I'm coming online.
Okay, I'm looking at the question, and sometimes to lay your life down, you have to do a sacrifice. And the sacrifice comes from sometimes you have to hear that question, and sometimes you have a problem that you came across a situation where you can use that to help that person. And you are going to have to go into details that that you have put aside, then put it under, but it has to come back up in order for you to tell that person that has the similar situation that you had, although that situation hurt you a long time ago. But you have to still believe that the Father is telling you it's your turn.
Yep, absolutely. You're gonna have to give up rid of your comfort and every battle that you fought to get past that to open that wound again.
I kind of want to go back to what you were talking about as far as when you're helping a person and you pour so much into them. In counseling, that's called compassion fatigue. You would actually just talk to someone, or just a group of people. And I mean, other people have experienced it, where you can have somebody who's completely, I had it happen a couple of weeks ago, just completely so much. And I had to go sit in the car and, get my head together, and I was done for the day. So what normally happens if a person, most likely what would happen, if a person continues to do that, like you said, they would, sometimes it could come out where they're no longer not humble, they're no longer patient. Now all of a sudden they're snapping at people. They're no longer courteous. They're not as, never mind.
Hold on, I'll give you some mercy. Finish your thought. want to see where you're going with this.
They're not as loving because they're just getting tired. And it's not that they don't care about people. It's just that they haven't taken care of themselves and they're becoming overwhelmed and stressed and different things that happen. And normally what happened with us is that when we see it happening, that person may not even realize that it's happening to them. We'll notice other people are complaining. So we will talk to that person and they will have to go to the side and sit down because they want to do so much.
We have similar situations at work. So some of y'all know that I work at a school with students with special needs and behavioral issues, and they can be ultra aggressive, which is why they can't be served in their public school. And some of these physical assaults can last 20 seconds, 20 minutes, up to an hour. And we have paid professionals that have certain techniques that we use to get through those things. And a lot of us have superhero complex. We want to work through that aggressive behavior for the whole hour. We're trained to work it as best we can because the longer you go, the less safe you're going to be. Tap out, dog. Somebody else will come in and get you back. No, I got this. But now they're feeding their ego, and they're putting themselves in jeopardy, and they're putting the student in jeopardy. So absolutely, absolutely. Who's online? Yakari, y'all go ahead.
So I actually have a question. I know that like taking the time to separate yourself is kind of a hard lesson to learn. I know I've had to learn it. But my question is, how do you effectively do this without people getting offended, especially when people have knowledge, oh, you did this for somebody else? And then how do we be considerate of one another to have discernment and wisdom, not to overwhelm one another, if that makes sense?
I got your question. I'm going to say part of it, the answer is going to sound a little bit harsh, but I can't really always worry about offending everybody. If I'm the type that's a people pleaser and everybody has to love me, it's going to bother me. But I got a saying that I say for those that are aspiring in different leadership positions, if you need everybody to like you, leadership ain't for you. Because eventually somebody going to not like a decision you had to make. So again, if you have to take the time, then they're just going to have to be offended. Now, it's up to you to try to fix that offense, but in the moment, you can't let the fact that they may be mad at you stop you from doing what you have to do. If you absolutely have to take that rest, then you got to do what you got to do. And you just got to say, this person isn't going to like me for a while. And for some people, that's extremely difficult. Some people, they have to be liked at all times. I'm not one of them, but they are out there, right? But they have to get past that. They have to lay that part of themselves down and realize the greater good, the bigger cause is benefited by that person just having to go through the offense in a moment, you refreshing, and you just make it up to them and explain to them what was going on. That's the first half of the question. The second half is really on a case-by-case basis how to go about doing it, because everybody's different. What works for one may not work for the other. But that's why you have your leadership, your elders, your trusted confidants that are going to shoot you straight. And you guys can come up with a plan and be consistent and work on that plan when those situations arise. Did that answer your question?
Yes, it did. And I mean, I'm not trying to be rude. I don't care too much about offense when it comes to that.
Yeah.
I'm the same way. I just know that I still have a caring heart. I guess I noticed it. So I was like, how do I need to step in and try to, do anything else, or just, is it okay? Does that make sense?
It's okay in that moment, but keep the caring heart. Keep the caring heart and go back and explain to them why you had to put them to the side. Don't just leave them there.
Okay.
Right?
Total.
Elia, go ahead.
Shalom. I wanted to land back off of Ima's example. I had a family member who was asking me to assist her with a very delicate situation. And so I prayed about it, and what the Ruach gave me, I gave to her. And from there, I just became like a sounding board. And I would just kind of allow her to vent when she was going through certain things. And in some point in time, the Ruach would lead me to share scripture or give an example from the scriptures. And I started to see the individual give me, as Shemaiah was mentioned, like attitudes, or she would like huff and puff, or she would blow me off. And I had a personal example that I wanted to share with her, but I was also trying to regard what she was going through. And so
Sorry, sis, you went past your time. Keep your thought. Is anybody in the room? All right, we don't have a hand in the room. You can go back and finish your thought.
okay, I'm gonna try to speed this up. So I pretty much had to humble myself and to share the personal example that I was dealing with in my life, to show her that the advice that I was giving her was not me just trying to sound holier than thou and quote scriptures, but I had to actually walk out what I'm sharing with her. So I feel like that was me laying down my life and what I felt could have been an embarrassing situation, to actually turn around and use this as an example to her, to say, the advice that I'm giving you is what I actually have to walk out.
Yeah, absolutely. So I got Moreh in the room. Wants to add to the conversation.
All right. Just about the part where you have to sometimes take time for yourself. Even Mashiach went away from healing and doing all the things that he was enjoying doing, to refresh himself. Sometimes you just like, I just need to steal away so that you can be filled back up, so that you can recoup, so that you can get yourself together. So don't ever feel bad telling somebody, I really want to do this, but I can't right now. And if they get offended at that, it kind of lets you know who that person is or where they are, because it's not really about, they don't care about your situation. They only focused on their own situation. And since you did it for somebody else, why you can't do it for me? Well, if I could, I would, but I can't right now. And if you can't understand that, that says something to me. I might not have to voice all that at that moment, but that says something to me. I just can't do it. And that's the way it's going to be. And you walk away from it at that moment. It's going to come back around, but hopefully the person can say, come back to themselves and say, I was wrong for trying to pressure you or manipulate you into doing this for me. But you have to know that you can take that time for yourself. Don't feel guilty about it.
All right, we talked about that. So we can talk about something that Aki mentioned. So we talk about ways to do it, right? But how do we get ourselves in that mind state that we want to be able to put ourselves there on a consistent basis, right? Because whatever we're doing for the Most High, we want to be consistent at it. We don't want to be on fire for 1 week. Ooh, man, that was a great message. I'm about to do that today. By the end of the week, like, ooh, I need a new message because I don't want to do that no more. Right? How do we stop it? How do we make sure that this type of mindset is something that we carry on all the time, right? Go ahead, Keith.
Kind of segues with what we were just talking about. What comes to mind is Romans 12, beginning of Romans 12, that, don't be conformed to the world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, so you prove what's a good and perfect, acceptable will of Elohim. And that's what I think that ties into being a living sacrifice and our reasonable worship is we have to renew our mind. We might have to take some time to, fast, pray, meditate, be like Eliyahu, go to the cave for a little bit or something while, get our mind straight, get our mind right, so that we can go back to the calling with a renewed, refreshed purpose,
Oh yeah, we definitely do that on a regular basis. Go ahead, Aki. Hold on. That's my moderator back there. He knows whose hands went up in what order. Todaki.
I'm thinking routine. At least it works for me. Routine. In order to have a relationship, like even you have a relationship with an individual person, but right now you're talking about the Most High, but you have a relationship, you set time, you might have a day, you may have, a time during the day to spend that quality time. So that's what I'm thinking, just routine, just something that, and not meaning routine as I'm just going to do this with no thought and, just going through the motions. I'm talking about actual putting yourself into it because you are meaning to draw close during this time.
Yes, sir. Go ahead, Akeem.
Yeah. Just to land back off of everyone, said everything. I mean, it was beautiful. One way is just to always remember that when we get ready to step out the house, we are representing the Father and we are ambassadors. So it does require that we stay in constant prayer, fasting and praying, because we never know what situation is going to come. Like a Mashiach, when he was going to heal the daughter of Jairus, he was stopped and the woman, needed healing, from the issue of blood. So we never know, what we're going to encounter during the day. So it's our responsibility to, on purpose, stay in the presence of Yah so we can be ready.
Absolutely.
And I yield.
Is that Namana? Go ahead.
Hi, Shalom. What comes to mind is always to stay prayerful, meditating on his word. And it just reminds me of what is said in Telehim. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it just says basically, blessed is the man who shall not walk in the counsel of the wrong and shall not stand in the path of the sinners, and shall not sit at the seat of the scoffer, but delights himself in Torah of Yahuah, and he meditates in Torah day and night. For he shall be as a tree planted by rivers of water. So basically, staying in his word, meditating, pray before you leave, make sure you got that armor on, and just meditate on his word every night and daily to keep that positive mindset. Are you?
You said I couldn't stay seated. No answers already. Good answers, everybody. Go ahead.
So, how do you put your life away for the sake of others? I think it could be a lot of different things, but I think it starts with repentance and forgiveness, because when you repent, a lot of times, most of us at least don't repent just at the snap of the finger. Most of us have to go through some things, some trials and tribulations, and get humbled. And then when you forgive, it's another humbling experience. So I think what happens is, once you realize what you went through, that humbled you, that lowered you, that, once you realize what you went through and what you've been forgiven for, you're able to do that for another person. You're able to see what they've been through. You're able to see the things that they're going through because you've been there. And it makes it easier for you to relate to them and be kind to them. And getting into that place, just knowing that you're doing it for Yahuah, just knowing that everything that you do is for Yahuah's sake.
Hello, yeah. Hold on, Aki. We got one right before you. We got two before you, then we'll come to you. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, just even praying for discernment to be able to identify the needs of others. Just taking, being able to walk in their shoes, as Nabat was saying, and really just identify their needs.
Absolutely.
I'm thinking just developing the mindset that we want to be one, as the Mashiach said that he and the Father are one, and just begin to look at those things in ourselves that are individualized, that won't connect to other people, and start to begin to peel those layers back until to the point where I can connect to, my brother, my sister, and we can all be one and operate as one and look at each other as one. That's
Yeah.
the part.
Go ahead, Aki. You next.
I think it's all about what this lesson is about. It's not about you. You got to humble yourself and be willing and ready to serve others.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Ima.
I think my thought when I saw this, when I came back in our lifetime, we have we could go for a while and then there's this break. Then you go, there's something else come up. So in your lifetime, you're going to have these stops and goes and stops and goes. It might come to where you have stopped and you don't know what to do for this person. but through the Ruach, it gives you a indication where these stops and goes and what you can do and what you cannot do. So I had to learn that the hard way. What I could do and what I couldn't do, I would have to pray on it and just let the Father handle it. So you can't do everything that you want to do because it takes time. You have to first realize that, okay, I got you. You have to be taught, you know?
Absolutely. Go ahead, Aki.
All right. So how do you get to a place where you are willing to live that type of life? 2 Timothy 2:15 says, study to show yourself approved unto Elohim, a workman that needs not to be ashamed, rightly handling the word of truth. So practice, intentional practice. We're not talking about the game, we're talking about practice, right? So practice. And another phrase is opportunity favors the prepared. So if you are prepared to do something, when that opportunity presents itself, you will be in that type of mindset. You will already be there because the intentional practice, the routine that was already stated already, that you're intentionally trying to do this because you want to get better, you desire to get better. So there are things you're going to have to sacrifice so that you can maintain and grow in this relationship. Sounds like a great lesson.
All right, hold on. All right, I don't want to go down too far another rabbit hole, but you said practice, right? Talking about practice, not a game, practice. Who are you going to be doing that practicing with?
Team coach. Yourself, first and foremost.
I mean, even if you're shooting shots at the gym, somebody rebounding with you.
Not necessarily.
If you're doing it efficiently, they are.
I mean, I can go to that. Kobe was in the gym by himself.
No, he was not chasing the rebound by himself. No, he was not.
Hold on.
The point I'm making is that you're going to practice this on a regular basis, on a daily basis with the people that you're closest to.
Family.
Those are the people that you're going to get that practice with. Those are people you're going to be using these skills with on a regular basis. We use the examples of being out and you come and somebody's going to drain you. But what if that person that's draining you sleeps next to you every night? What if that person that's draining you is in the room next door every night and you got to feed them and keep over their head, right? Hold on. I'm gonna echo that one more time. He said that you get the skills and you develop them, you have to practice them, right? But you're going to practice them with the people that you see on a regular basis. The person that you share bread with if you're married, the person that sleeps next door if you're a parent, right? That's the person you can practice with. The conversation started about, these people out and witnessing and the people I deal with at work, but the people I need the most are the ones that you're closest with. That's what you're getting your practice with. Yolanda, what you got?
I was gonna say what you said, Moreh, that it's beautiful what everybody said, and I do agree with it. But I was sitting here struggling the whole time because in my heart I was saying, I have to fight myself to do the right thing. I don't know. Maybe I'm the only one. I just have to fight to do the right thing because in my heart I'm like, I'm exhausted. I'm tired. I lean on the scriptures, but my mind and my body, my spirit, I need a refreshing. So when you said what you said, I was like, exactly. I agree, but I was still on the fence. I yield.
Jump off the fence. But yeah, this is Mishpachah. Be open with us. There ain't no shame in the game. If we bring up something that you're struggling in the area, let us know. Because I guarantee you're not the only one. Now, Mana, go ahead.
Sure, Mikey. If you're dealing with somebody in your household, and it's hard for you to get that word across, then you got to be creative about it. That's like sometimes if I'm dealing with a loved one and they're yelling and screaming at me, especially as a female, I'm quiet for a minute and I let them say what they're gonna say, and then I say, you know what? Number one, that's unladylike, and you sound like a pig with a ring through its nose. So you need to calm down. And a loud woman, this is from scripture, a loud woman is like a pig with a ring through their nose. So you have to be a different way of getting things across to them. And you're still using scriptures in the word. So there's other ways to do it. And they look at you like, what did you just say? I say, I didn't say it, it's in the word. So you need to, pump your brakes and calm down a little bit. And then they just stare at you.
Hallelujah. Toda. All right. So you guys summed it all up, right? We stay in that place by following the example of Yahushua. He's our example, right? We all said it just in a different way. We gave different examples from the word, right? But he is the word. So again, we all gave the right answer, right? What you want to add back there? Okay. Cool. All right. So let's look at Hebrews 4:15. But we do not have a high priest who is unable to sympathize with our weaknesses, but one who in every respect has been tempted as we are, yet without sin. So he's our goal. He's our focus, right? He's the example that we're following. Notice, when do we need the sympathy? It's in our weaknesses, right? It's easy to be sympathetic when somebody's on your good side. When y'all vibing, they get all the sympathy they need. But when they're in their weaknesses, how often do we not realize that that's the state they're in? And we only focus on the offense. Instead of saying that person was simply in a moment of weakness. That's not who they really are. They were in a moment. They need my sympathy, right? It's easy to get along with people, to love on people, to relate to them when they're at their best, right? But when they aren't, is when they need it the most. All right. So again, we know that Yahushua literally gave his life for us. We're not literally to die for each other in that sense, but we are to die to our flesh daily. Everybody agree with that? So one few things wrong with our flesh. We only named two here. It's selfish. It's greedy. It lacks the keys to laying down our lives. If we depend on our flesh laying down our life, we're not going to get it done. One of those keys is empathy. Right? So we'll look at the previous verse. We don't have a high priest who's unable to sympathize with our weaknesses. He was tempted as we are, yet without sin. So he has the sympathy, right? So we want to be like him. Rabbi Google, tell me what empathy means.
It is the ability to understand and share the feelings of another, being aware of, being sensitive to, vicariously expressing the feelings of another person.
All right. Understanding, being aware of, being sensitive to, and vicariously experiencing the feelings, thoughts, and experiences of another. That's empathy. It's the phrase, I feel you, but on a whole different level. It's I feel you on steroids. When they say I feel you, I literally do feel you, right? I say it all the time, I feel you. But in the empathetic sense, you actually feel what they're feeling. But it's not the same as sympathy. Empathy and sympathy are not the same. Rabbi Google. What's sympathy?
Let's see. Sympathy is an inclination to think or feel alike. It's almost like emotional intelligence. The capacity of entering into sharing. Yeah, that's it. Okay. Feeling or mental state brought about such as sensitivity, the act or capacity of entering into or sharing the feelings or interests of another.
Okay. Some of that is verbatim, right? It's an affinity, an association, or relationship between persons or things, wherein whatever affects one similarly affects the other. It's a mutual or parallel susceptibility or condition brought about it. It's a unity or harmony in action or effect. For example, every part is complete sympathy with the scheme as a whole. They're all on one accord, right? The second definition is an inclination to think or feel alike. Emotional intellectual accord and sympathy with their goals. It's a feeling of being loyal. So a tendency to favor or support Republican sympathies, right? So let's take a look at the words that are underlined. Anything wrong with these? Anything wrong with affinity or mutual, parallel, or harmony? Anything wrong with those? Man, if you had a microphone, I might hear what you said.
It can be.
In what way?
So for example, in the case of sympathy, if somebody's mad and they come to you, hey man, I'm mad about this, and they tell you what's happening, now you're mad, and say, yeah, I'm gonna go punch the guy in the face. And you say, yeah, let's go get him. You know, that's probably not a good affinity to have. But if somebody comes to you, I'm mad, and you say, hey, I understand why you're mad. Yeah, I'm gonna go punch him in the face. Hold on, wait a minute. I understand why you're mad. You can probably talk to him a little bit better as opposed to paralleling and sympathizing.
The sympathy wasn't the problem. Your actions was terrible. So sympathy is like a good thing, right? But the problem is this sympathy always going to work? I mentioned it earlier, right? When y'all are cool, when y'all are in unity, when y'all are in harmony, sympathy is great, right? What happens when you aren't seeing eye to eye? When the feelings aren't mutual? Then what? When there's no affinity or unity in that moment, then what? Sympathy gonna be any good to you?
Ain't no sympathy.
Ain't no sympathy. You're not gonna feel sympathy, right? What might you need in that moment instead? I pray one of y'all has some empathy in that moment. Somebody in that moment has to understand where the other person's coming from. You got to put yourself in their shoes. So you're not feeling the offense. You're feeling what they're feeling. You're understanding why they're coming to you that way. If you only get caught up in the moment, all you're going to hear is what they're saying to you. You're not going to bother to ask yourself why they feel in that way. Sympathy itself is not enough. But here's the problem we find ourselves in, right? The verse that I showed you guys said that the Mashiach was sympathetic. Not empathetic, but you said to be like the Mashiach, right? Simple solution. Sympathy has been in use since the 16th century. It comes ultimately from the Greek sympatheos, meaning having common feelings, or sympathetic, which was formed from a bunch of Greek words, right? But empathy was modeled on sympathy, and it was coined in the early 20th century as translated from a German word, eigen something or other, feeling in or feeling into. So whoever wants to take a chance trying to say that word, knock yourselves out. All right. But sympathy came first, and out of our understanding of sympathy, we developed empathy, right? So when they did the original translation, sympathy made sense because that's what they understood. But word understandings and usages evolve over time. One word or idea helps create the next one. Deeper understandings evolve over time. Sympathy was 16th century. 400 years later, somebody said, that's not quite good enough. That's not a good description. We're going to come up with this word called empathy. So was Yahushua sympathetic or was he empathetic? Which one are we to model, sympathy or empathy? Go ahead, okay.
Both of them.
Both of them?
Yeah.
But again, sympathy ain't gonna work all the time.
No, but it works when we're in unity.
But what if we're not in unity? We got to get through
sympathy. We use both of them.
Why would we do that though?
Why not?
Because I'm not feeling you right now.
Okay, then I'm gonna empathize with you.
So I have to ultimately get to empathy.
I mean, yeah, but if you feeling good, then we sympathize together.
But if we not feeling good, it ain't working, right? If we're always feeling good with each other, if we're always feeling good with each other and we're always treating each other that way, I'm gonna sit down for the next 2 weeks. And you can delete my recording from last week.
Hello.
But we all know that ain't the world we live in, right? Go ahead now, Mana.
Shalom, Moreh. Aki. You know what? We have to use both depending on the situation. We have to exercise discernment depending on the situation. We use empathy to understand the feelings of others. We have to use that. If someone comes around and they're upset and mad about whatever, okay, but we cannot let that affect us to the point to where we're doing something that is going to come back and bite us. You know, yes, and that sympathy, okay, but we have to stand back, use discernment, look at the situation, and determine which one needs to be done at the moment.
Okay, hello, yeah. So the translation correctly says sympathetic, as they understood it at that time, right? So we're talking about one particular word out of the verse. What's the overall message of the verse? Is the overall message sympathy, or is the overall message empathy? It's empathy. Mhm. Mhm. But remember what empathy is. It's an understanding of, I understand what you're going through. I'm sensitive to it, but I experienced it. He had the shared experience. Without empathy, without shared experience, you don't get the empathy. But he didn't just say, I feel you, I'm with you, I see you, I know why you feel that way. He was tempted just as we are. He had the same experience. So the overall understanding is empathy, but the word they had to use at the time was sympathy. Sympathy won't get you all the way where you need to be. You need to be empathetic, right? Empathy is what you're aiming for. So, no, go ahead. You had your hand up.
I was going to say something very important. We can't have empathy unless we actually value our neighbors. Think about it. Because some people, you know, they don't feel you. I don't care how much you share, how much you give. They just don't have it. They don't have it, you know, so yeah.
It helps.
You
helps.
have to value people, you know, you have to have that love, you know, how much shit you have to have it. Yeah, be empathetic.
Now, there's people, all of us are created differently, right? There's some people who are empathetic by nature, so they won't have that issue. There's some of us that have to develop that, and we have to actively go seeking the value in our neighbor. Some people see it automatically, right? Some people don't. If you're automatically empathetic, you don't have that situation, right? But we have to understand where we are. Am I somebody that leans toward empathy? Then I don't have to have those same battles, right? But if I know that I'm not, I can't just leave it there like, I ain't empathetic. I don't care. I got to reverse that. I got to work on that. I got to think like the Mashiach. I got to make that my meditation, like you said, before you leave the house, right? Daily. You got to be actively thinking about that and conscious of the decisions you make and the interactions you have with people. Like I said before, we can't walk through life all willy-nilly. We're happening to life. Life not happening to us. We got to take an active role in what we're doing. Go ahead. All right, don't put the mic far. It's going to come back to you. Go ahead, Moreh.
All right, just thinking about what you just said, or just in the context. It says we have to love our neighbors as ourselves. And I guess if you don't really love or care too much for you, you might not care too much for your neighbor or somebody else. So you'll retreat them in that same vein. Because sometimes you are looking for empathy, but you have no empathy for no one else. You know, so that makes you more of a selfish individual, but I don't care what happens to you. It just cares about what happens to me. So we have to, you know, that's some of the things we have to overcome sometimes.
Right. So when we're in that place, who's guiding us, the Mashiach or our flesh? Our flesh is guiding us when we find ourselves in that situation, right? So that means, one, we have to notice it ourselves, or be able to receive correction when somebody points it out to us and not be defensive. We got to be able to hear them out. Go ahead.
Still don't think no, and it was just that I was saying that we're to have empathy like Mashiach, because as he was tempted like us, he understood. So for us, it's the same thing. When we're looking at another person, we have to understand they're in the flesh just like we are. And just like Mashiach understood, they're in the flesh. So they're going to have all these different issues. We have to understand that. So when we look at another person, we should see them that way, be empathetic and understand we're all in the flesh, and some person may have a certain issue, and you can see, a lot of times you can see it's coming from, maybe it's some experience they have, or it's just something that's happening to them at that point. But to understand, just like Mashiach understood that everyone has issues. Empathetic.
By the way, I can't see him over there, so he's flagging y'all down. I have no clue. All right, hold on. I want to dig a little deeper into her point. Everybody has your thoughts, keep them, because I'm going to get to you. We were talking sympathy versus empathy, right? And it was a word that you used, and I want to dig deeper into it. Understanding, right? You can understand what somebody's going through, but not feel it. Understanding is knowing, but feeling means you can actually relate to it. And we don't want to just be in a position where I understand why you're mad, but do I empathize why you're mad? Because if I understand, I get it, I don't care. If I empathize, I know why you're mad, and I'm going to understand why you're mad, and I'm going to deal with you like that, versus understanding like, I really don't care. You're bothering me. You're getting on my nerves, and what you said offended me. When I'm empathetic and understand, I focus on you and not myself. So that's the difference that I would make. Go ahead.
Can't remember what I was going to say. No, but I understand. I understand that, but that is exactly what I'm saying. You are to be empathetic, but with the knowledge, like Yahushua, that everyone is in the flesh, everyone is a sinner, and you are to be empathetic because of that. Because we are. I have to be that because I am too. I'm in the flesh, and I'm a sinner.
Yeah, no, that my statement wasn't against your comment. It was just focusing on that word that you used, and it made me come to that thought. That's all. Hold on. I lost moderator. Who's next? How many I got in the room? All right, 2 in the room, then I'm coming online.
So I'm thinking of when being empathetic to showing empathy to someone. If let's say that person is in sin, and you have to use discernment while you're showing empathy toward them, that also will help. I'm just thinking about just myself. That will help with increasing patience, because you're doing more than understanding. You're feeling what they're going through, but at the same time, you're trying to help them and direct them to the correct path. As you're talking to them, you're showing them empathy, and
All right. What y'all speaking to a maturity, right? Because it depends on where you are in your journey, this walk, depends on your ability to empathize at that level or to understand correctly. And we say what it says that if a person is overtaken in a fault, who's supposed to do that? Galatians 1:6-1. If a brother's overtaken in a fault, who's going to do? Yeah, you who are spiritual, right? It's a certain level of maturity that you have to be able to empathize with that situation. Understanding, right? It says that if anyone is caught in a transgression, your spiritual should restore him in the spirit of gentleness, keeping a watch on yourself. At least you're also to know that you could find yourself in that same situation. This is empathy. So it depends on your level of maturity spiritually, whether or not you're, because most times if they coming at you a certain way and you're not grown, guess where you coming in? The same way they came at you. Same energy for energy, as they were saying.
Right.
As young people say, right?
Right. But that's brings us back to this though. In that moment when they come to you, if you haven't developed empathy, you're thinking about yourself. You're only thinking about the offense. But we don't want to be in that situation. Anybody on? Huh? Chantrice, go ahead.
I sent a message. It's Sienna, and I did not know my government was up. But anyway, I was going to ask if did anyone say anything about being moved by the Spirit?
It came up earlier in the discussions. That's where most of the examples came from.
Okay, Toda.
So hold on, I gotta try to move this heart out the way. Hallelujah, shalom. What about those with narcissistic behavior traits? There is naturally no empathy or recognition that is absent in that person.
You're saying the narcissistic person that does not have empathy? I believe that. That's true. But you having empathy will recognize them for where they are and deal with them accordingly. I've dealt with my share of narcissist people, and it took me a while to figure out what was going on. But then I was able to put myself in their shoes. And a lot of the narcissism that you face has nothing to do with you. You're not the reason they were narcissists. They were narcissists before they even got to you. So again, if you take it personal, you're only going to worry about what they've done to you. If you put yourself in their shoes and understand where they're coming from, perhaps consider how they got there, then you'll be more likely to say, I understand, I hear it, water off a duck's back. How can I get you past this? How can I get you to the next situation? Or I just got to back up, right? Or I can get stuck in my feelings, make it about me, and battle this narcissist person in a battle I'm never going to win. You're never going to be a narcissist. You are not going to be a narcissist, ever. Don't even try it. Now, you can help them, but if you're trying to win, quote unquote, it's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. You're never going to win. If you think a narcissist is suddenly going to see things your way, you don't understand what narcissism is. It's not going to happen. All right. So just a thought, You got somebody tell you something that you're going through, right? And you respond to them, I feel you. But their response, I can't be the only one that's been there before, right? You can't possibly relate because it's not you going through it. Definitely had narcissists tell me that before, for sure. Anybody been in this situation before? Ken, right? Just last week, somebody said in the room without a microphone. All right. But it's true. I'm not actually going through it in that moment, right? But I've been there before. I've walked in those shoes. And like Imam mentioned earlier, empathy brings me back to the place I was in as I was going through it. I'm exactly in that exact same spot again. But that's when, like Imam said, you got to make it not about yourself. I was in that spot. It's a terrible spot. I never want to go back there again. But for me to get you out of it, guess where I got to go? Back to that same spot again. So again, empathy ain't for the weak. There's nothing weak about being empathetic at all. But it's what we're called to be, because we're called to be like Mashiach. Oh, sorry. Caution. This is just a sidebar. Pride can block our ability to feel empathy. And again, we've talked about pride on 1,000 different levels. But again, if your pride is if you know you have a pride issue, understand it's going to block your ability to be empathetic, and it's going to sabotage your relationships. All right. Philippians 2:3-8. Do nothing from selfish ambition or conceit, but in humility count others more significant than yourselves. That's the heart of empathy right there. What you're experiencing, what you're going through is far more important than the way it's making me feel. Let each of you look not only to his own interest, but also the interest of others. Have this mind among yourselves, which is yours in Yahushua, who, though he was in the form of Elohim, did not count equality with Elohim a thing to be grasped, but he emptied himself by taking the form of a servant, being born in the likeness of men, and being found in human form, he humbled himself by becoming obedient to the point of death, even death on a cross. That's the picture of humility right there. Why do you think they mentioned the point about the death was on a cross? You looking for that profile, Mike? It's right there by your purse. Okay. Now, Monica, go ahead.
With the pain and suffering of the physical sacrifice of his flesh.
It's the pain and the suffering. There's lots of ways that you can die painfully and suffering, but it's the shame of those who died on that cross. Go ahead, Aki.
Because when I believe, like it said in scripture, when you were hung on a stake or on a cross, that was like being cursed, right? Like it's like you're being cursed.
Because you hung on a tree?
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, you're being laid bare before all. So everyone can behold you and see you, and everything is on full display. So it's like, it's like in a sense, it's like a humiliation. Like imagine we wore all our embarrassing moments of our lives on our face. Like as soon as you see somebody, you can see every moment, every sin, every embarrassing moment. That's kind of a semblance of the state in the sense of being displayed before everybody.
It's the most humiliating way to be put to death. But he did that for us. So we're supposed to do that to others. We're supposed to humble ourselves, right? And not just, this is the easy part, that particular area, I can humble myself there. No, find the most vile thing you've ever done, that you see somebody else about to walk through the exact same thing, and lay yourself bare, confess your sins to that person, say, hey, guess what, brother? You don't want to do that. I've been there before. This is where it's going to lead you to. Well, yeah, this happened to me. I can't believe that I let that happen to me, but it did. But this is how I overcame it. There's no, the basic point being that there's nothing that you should be able to hide from another if it could benefit that person, because you're putting that person before you. All right, so don't focus on the hurt or the offense or the attitude that they're giving you. Take some time and focus on why they're doing what they do. What demons are they fighting? What are they dealing with? Put yourself in their shoes and ask yourself a question. No matter what they're going through, no matter how they're approaching you, ask yourself this simple question. If you were going through the exact same thing they're going through, how would you behave? That person that's yelling at you, screaming at you, because they're going through this, taking out on you. If you were going through that same thing, how would you behave? If you ask yourself that question, you may come to this revolution. You may find that they're even dealing better with it than you would. They could be treating you far worse than you think they are. As bad as you got it now, they could be doing even worse. And if you were in that shoes, you might be doing even worse than them. Their pain and their trauma, it's probably worse than your hurt little feelings. Because people don't come at you and deal with you a certain way just because. What are they going through that brought them to that place? What pain are they going through? What hurt? What suffering? It's probably a little more hurtful to them than you calling me a bad name, or you calling me out of my name or out of my character. Because at that point, ain't nothing hurting here but my feelings. Nothing hurt by my pride, ain't hurt by my ego, which I ain't supposed to have no way. But this person going through all kinds of hell, and they had to take it out on you. Oh, well, you will live. What they're going through may crush them. But you got to be empathetic. It's not about you in that moment. It's about them. But hold on now, Mom. We got one in the room.
You said be empathetic, and empathetic is about experience, right? So what happens if you don't understand what they're going through? You haven't experienced what they're going through.
You have to find a common ground. All of us have been hurt before. All of us have been sad before. You may not have experienced what caused it, but at some point you felt what they're going through. I thought I saw a hand, I'm sorry. Yeah, got a hand in the back.
That's what I was about to, I was thinking more like go back to empathy. If you can't have sympathy for that person, you can understand as a human being that what that emotion is.
No, Mona, go ahead. Toda.
Shalom, Aki. You know, when people are coming at you yelling and screaming and stuff, it's like hurting people hurt people, you know, and a lot of time they just want to be heard and they don't mean anything. They just want to get out whatever is hurting them. And that's when, you know, I show my empathy the most. I just let them rant and rave, and I try not to let it affect me because it's not about me. It's about them getting out whatever they need to get out. How you?
All right. Now remember, I've said this before, right? That we experience Yahuah through each other. He's not going to come down and present himself in the flesh to people. He's going to send us to do it. We're his light. There was a question in the back. You had a comment in the back.
I was just gonna say, when you recognize the ruach, you recognize the root of a lot of issues that people are experiencing.
Yep. And I'm not saying anything about this is easy. It's a heavy weight to bear. But that's why he put us here. That's why he called us. None of us got here by accident. Y'all may have heard me say this before. People that are closest to me. I don't believe in coincidences. I just don't believe in them. That person that's coming to you, they didn't get there just because. Now think about the interaction they're having with you. And they're venting, they're yelling, they're screaming, they're hurt, they're pouring out their heart, whatever it is. What if they happened it for somebody else who wasn't willing to accept it? And they got hurt deeper. They got hurt further. They went further down that path they're on. But the Most High saw fit for them to run into you. Are you going to treat them the same way somebody else would? I pray not. Treat them the way the Mashiach would. And again, easier said than done, right? But you got, again, are you happy in life? Was life happening to you? You got to be active and in control of the situation of what you're doing at all times. You got to make conscious decisions. All right. So why do we hesitate to feed the sheep? Why do we take people for granted? Why do we retreat when they come to us with their issues? Why are we slow to give what we have, whether it be compassion, empathy, patience, long suffering, all the things Mashiach gave to us? What even it's material things, right? What causes us to be slow to give that same thing to others? Now, Mona, go ahead.
Shalom. Okay, sometimes some people don't know how to express compassion or empathy or patience. You know, it's difficult for other people to show it, or some people to show it. Some people don't have that ability to show it. Well, it comes natural to other people. Are you?
You may not have compassion, but you got something you can give them. You might give them patience if you don't have compassion. You might give compassion if you don't have patience. Good. Oh, I think that's out of order. You can go ahead. You already got the mic on.
Okay, so why are we slow to give what we have? I think it really boils down to pride. I think that you know, we don't want to give, you know, for whatever reason. I just think it's pride.
Okay, pride's a part of it for sure. Good.
I would say development in their environment has a lot to do with it. And also it could be based on what you have experienced as to why you are reluctant to give in certain parts of yourself.
Absolutely. You got a question? You're coming next. Okay.
I was just gonna say something very similar. It's a learned behavior. We just, in the world, nobody has a neighbor. As a matter of fact, my neighbor next door, I don't even know their names. Been living beside almost 6 years. So we don't do those things to one another, for one another.
Yeah, but again, let's gotta self snitch again. All right, so let's keep it close to home, right? I realized over the last, I want to say the last 3 weeks, that I suffer from PTSD in certain areas. And I found myself fussing at the kids because they don't have the foresight in moments. Like they wait till the exact moment and then they react. But because of my PTSD, I didn't grow up with that opportunity. I'm always on edge. I'm always thinking 3 steps ahead. And for me, I can't understand why they're not the same way. Duh, because you did what you're supposed to do and now they get to live in the burbs. Like, but I find myself fussing like, why did you wait? And I'm like, oh, because they don't have PTSD like you do, stupid. But again, now that I recognize that, right, I have to put myself in their shoes and behave accordingly. But I got to make a conscious effort not to do that to them. But again, I'm only like 3 weeks in, so give me some patience, right? Give me some patience and some compassion. All right. But again, like I mentioned earlier, it's going to be the people that are closest to you. That's where you get your most practice from. Right. But again, we said pride, we said circumstance. That's what triggered that thought in me, the way we came to things we had to go through, right? But again, just like we said the other things, we're going to wrap it up in this one word. Fear. Fear. Your pride comes from fear of being exposed. It's all going to come back to fear. Fear of loss, right? Fear of rejection, fear that it's going to be used against us. I gave you a second chance. Now you're going to hit me again, right? Fear that it won't keep them from hurting us again. Fear that we will not have or not see it again, right? Fear of loss. But what do we do about that? But if we are made in his image and we are like Yahushua, we have nothing to fear. For if we give or feed the sheep, give our lives, lay our lives down, we shall gain our life again. And I didn't make that up, right? John 17, for this reason the Father loves me, because I lay down my life that I may take it up again. Right? Let's look at Luke. Judge not, and you will not be judged. Condemn not, and you will not be condemned. Forgive, and you will be forgiven. 38. Let's relook our whole perspective on 38. Give, and it will be given to you. Good measure, pressed down, shaken together, running over, will be put into your lap. For with the measure you use, it will be measured back to you. So when I'm giving that mercy, when I'm giving that compassion, when I'm giving that empathy, when I give that thing that I needed, it's going to come back to me. It has nothing to do with money. It ain't got nothing to do with money. Does the verse start off talking about money? It's talking about the lack of judgment, right? The forgiveness, the measure you forgive, that's how you're going to be forgiven. Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those that trespass against us, right? If we're not forgiving them, he ain't going to forgive us. When we give that forgiveness, we can expect forgiveness in return. So whatever we give, we don't have to fear losing it because we're going to get it back. All right. But again, who are you giving the compassion to? To men, right? Those same men you give compassion to, they're the ones giving it back to you. Yahuah is just. He believes in the balanced scale. He's not going to allow you to pour out and then let that be a cause for you to be in lack or to be in hurt or to be in pain. He's going to balance the scale. So another caution. Remember, though, that this is all about a heart condition. Yahuah knows your heart, and your heart can't be ruled by fear. If you choose fear over the Mashiach, you're not going to do what you need to do. Somebody mentioned this earlier, right? Luke 6:30-38. Give to everyone who begs from you, and for one who takes away your goods, do not demand them back. And as you wish that others would do to you, do so to them. Because if you love those who love you, what benefit is that to you? For even sinners love those who love them. And if you do good to those who do good to you, what benefit is that to you? For even sinners do the same. And if you lend to those from whom you expect to receive, what credit is that to you? Even sinners lend to sinners so they can get back the same amount. But love your enemies and do good and lend expecting nothing in return. Can I lend stuff other than money? I'm going to lend you that compassion. I'm going to lend you that time. I'm going to lend you that empathy. And I'm not expecting it in return. That's not why I'm doing it. Your reward will be great, and you will be the sons of the Most High, for he is kind to the ungrateful and the evil. How is he kind to them? Through you and 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 you. We're his kindness to them because we show them a better path. Remember that no one owes you anything. You can't give compassion just to get compassion back. Oh, well, they weren't nice to me, so I'm not gonna be nice to them. That's not how this works. You got to do it anyway. You are not nourishing a relationship for your sake, but for their sake. You're not giving patience and understanding because they owe you patience and understanding. You're not giving empathy because they gave you empathy first. You were doing these things for one reason and one reason only. Because it's the right thing to do. It's the only reason you're doing it. Because it's the right and just thing that you're supposed to do. Because again, it's not about us. It's about them. Any questions? I'm gonna yield after the questions. You had a question?
I got a comment.
I'm sorry. Any questions or comments?
So when you had posted the can you go back to that fear one again?
This one?
The one before that. One before that. There you go. So hesitant to feed or nourish a sheep, slow to give, compassion, empathy, patience. So I remember it was one point in my life where I was scared to post on Instagram anything concerning Yahuah. I was scared to wear my tzitzits because for one, in terms of posting, there was a certain part of my life where I guess I was scared to talk about anything concerning him, like to anybody else outside of my normal circle that I hung out with on a regular basis. So I remember it was one day and I was just like, if I could see if Christians are sitting here posting, this, that, and the other, and sometimes they're taking these things out of context, why can't I just post and talk about Yahuah's word and his truth? So I just did it one day. And I'm thankful for it because I believe if I didn't, wouldn't be having conversations with other people, wouldn't probably be here, wouldn't have, the podcast with the Akeem. That's crazy.
What's the name of that podcast?
That's crazy. The Bread and Wine Podcast.
Okay.
So
on Spotify and all platforms?
Yeah, all platforms.
All right.
Smash
that like and subscribe button.
Yeah. Appreciate it. All praise to Yahuah. So that was one, just aspect of it. And like concerning zits and fringes, like the fear was of me not knowing exactly what it meant, but seeing people do it, and it's like, oh, they're doing this, so why can't I do it? But it was like, well, you need to know what it means before you actually start doing stuff. So that was another thing was fear. And sometimes the fear of not knowing can also cause us to hesitate to do certain things. But if we get over that fear and we like, you know what, I'm gonna take time and actually know what I'm doing so that if someone asks me, I can give them the correct answer for it, then yeah, good to go. But yeah, that kind of like hit me a little bit when I saw it.
I mean, part of that is justified fear because you understand what you're representing. And when somebody asks you a question, you want to be able to represent them properly. So you shouldn't go out anything all willy-nilly. You want to understand what you're doing. But again, that same fear should speed up the process it takes you to figure the information out. You don't just sit in the fear. Good, okay.
So with conjunction with like last week in the unconditional love thing, like I just feel like I want to be empathetic and care for that person, but like it could just feel so hard. So by making it less about us, like how do we like control though, you know what I mean? Like to not get out of hand. You know what I mean? Like when that person is acting that way, and you know what I mean?
Yeah. Again, like I said, easier said than done. It's a skill you have to learn. And I'm just gonna be honest with you. There's some things that are easier to give a pass than others. So you may be, you can look past that. I can be empathetic towards that real fast. But this is my hot button. That might take a little bit longer, right? But you also got to remember that as you model empathy with those people that you love, they're going to learn it. Empathy, because we're in this flesh, is not natural for most people. It's something you have to figure out. And it's something that people learn by experiencing it, by people modeling it for them, right? So again, whatever measure you give, that's the measure you're going to get. You can't expect this person to be empathetic towards you if you're never empathetic towards them. Again, empathy is a process, right? It came from sympathy. So you may find yourself being sympathetic first and then empathetic. And then the biggest part is to remember the overall message that don't focus on yourself at the moment. Let that person, I don't care how crazy they're acting, let them get it out. But don't react. Because all you really can control is yourself. Or instead of arguing, write it down, hum, like whatever you got to do, but don't feed into it. And then afterwards say, hey, when you did this, I felt a certain kind of way. When you did this, it triggered me this way. Next time you're feeling this, let's make a rule that we'll do this, that, and the other. But you have to think it out, plan it out, and strategize it. But if you think it's just going to naturally happen overnight without work, effort, and a plan and strategy, you're never going to get there. Right?
I just want to focus a little bit on his questions of things that
Sure.
were rolling through my mind. Like when you were talking about the scale and the balance, and at the beginning of the lesson, you were talking about when a person, like when we're angry with someone, it's a little harder to have that empathy for that person. So if you're going to have a balance in a scale, if we're focusing on the negative because we're angry with that person, we're going to lack empathy. So to focus on the positive things, just as much as you want to focus on the negative things, everything you see them doing positive, to focus on that as well. So that there's not an imbalance where the negative is up here. I mean, the negative is down here and the positive is way up here. To focus when you see them doing something, just acknowledge it to yourself. And continue to acknowledge it, and especially if forgiveness or something like that needs to take place, to acknowledge the effort that they're trying to, recover. They're trying to do the things that you said that you don't like or whatever. So, and I get.
And it's a process, right? Remember that he says, if you love me, feed my sheep, right? If somebody's coming at you that way, you got to get to the root of it. Because remember, it's usually not about you. Like I mentioned before you got here, Aki, people take it out on the people they got proximity to. The people that they trust, the people that they love. They're going to bear the brunt of that. Why? Because you're a safe space. It doesn't seem fair all the time, but that's the way usually how it works. They've safe vented to you, and you may take stuff that you probably shouldn't have to, right? But that's part of love. Anybody can love somebody when it's nice and smooth. I would venture to say that's not love. That's infatuation. That's the quote unquote honeymoon phase. Those endorphins are just as high as they can get, right? But eventually that stuff fades. You got to love me through my worst. Remember, I didn't say love me at my worst. Because if I love you at your worst, you'll stay there. Love me through my worst so you can get me out of it. But it's a process. Who had a question? Somebody said a question. Hold on, I got one in the room, Yakari, then I'm coming to you.
I have a statement, not a question.
Sure.
I want to go back to laying down your life. As I was absorbing the responses to it, I have to say that someone came to me and laid down his life for me earlier this week in a time of need. And I just wanted to show appreciation for that. In the conversation we had, because it's helping me to grow and realize what that looks like.
Hello, yeah.
Someone offered to help. The way you speak to your.
He got it. Yakaria?
Shalom. First I want to say Total Rabbi. This was a beautiful conversation. I appreciate everyone's feedback. It was very very helpful to me. I don't know if my comment will be a little way off, but I just wanted to say that encouragement helps a lot, especially when you know someone is, maybe you recognize someone's spiritual gift before they do, or just understanding that person's gift, or just encouraging them. I know that's one thing that helped me a lot, is having that feedback and that encouragement. Because the power of life and death is in the tongue. So when someone comes on your heart or someone's in your mind, making sure we are encouraging one another and lifting each other up. Okay, I yield.
Yeah. That's a good point. I'm gonna land back off that a little bit. Just thinking about relationships, right? The people you deal with the most, usually the ones that get on your nerves the most, usually the ones that hurt you the most. But she's talked about encouraging them, right? Instead of being so quick to point out their flaws, be quicker to praise them when they're doing the right thing. 9 times out of 10, people are seeking their behavior, seeking, your attention. And if someone's desperate for your attention, they don't care how they get it, negative or positive. So you have some control over that. If you're proactive in giving them their praise, that positive feedback, they're less likely to feel like they have to do something negative to get your attention. So make sure that you're encouraging. That's a good word, Toda. Now, Mana, what you got?
Shalom, Aki. I just want to say Toda Rabbah for this wonderful lesson. It's very refreshing. I praise Yah for giving you the ability to teach.
Hello, Yahuah.
I'm sure that it has reached somebody and reawoken them to the beauty of Abba Yahuah and Hamashiach Yahusha in this beautiful lesson. And I just want to say Toda Rabbah, Aki, keep teaching, all esteem and honor to Abba Yahuah, who has bestowed this gift upon you. Hallelujah. Shalom.
Hello, Yahuah. Anything else? Okay. I yield.
Hallelujah. I guess, Vic, you're closing this out again?
For our hearts and minds. Baruch Hashem Yahuah Eloheinu melech haolam, Todah Rabbah Most High Yah. We are thankful yet again for this opportunity to hear your understanding. We are grateful for what has been shared this evening. We are thankful again for this opportunity to assess our relationships with you and with others, but have a better understanding to grow and to mature, to be Talmudim, not just spiritually in your word, but emotionally. We thank you, Abba, for permitting us this time to do assessment, real-time assessment, to ensure that we are pouring into one another and that we are not just calling each other when we need something, but that we are being diligent and being faithful in our fellowship. And so we thank you, Abba. We are also grateful for this meal that's been prepared and the hands that have put forth the effort to put it together. We pray about a kai over it. And until we meet again, I humbly ask, please watch over each and every one of us. I humbly ask for your covering and keeping from the error by day to terror by night. May provision and favor and shalom be abundant in each and every one's homes, under the sound of my voice. I say these things and ask these things, belief in your power and your might through our Mashiach Yahusha, Hallel to Yahuah, Selah, Amen.
All right, everybody.